I just went on a date with a guy who tried to rob me. I know how that sounds. Trust me, I can't tell anyone in my life about this without them thinking I've lost my mind. But here's what actually happened. 3 weeks ago, I came home at 2:47 a.m. from a double shift at the hospital. I'm a nurse in the ER, and that night had been hell. I just lost a 19-year-old patient who coded on my watch despite everything we tried. I was so emotionally destroyed that when I opened my apartment door and saw someone standing in my kitchen holding my laptop, I didn't scream. I didn't run. I just stood there. He wasn't what I expected. No mask, no weapon except a butter knife from my drawer that he was holding like he'd never committed a crime in his life. He was maybe 25, wearing a faded warehouse uniform, and he was shaking so badly the laptop nearly slipped from his hands. We made eye contact. He started crying, actual tears streaming down his face as he stammered, "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I didn't think anyone would be home. I should have been terrified. I should have run. But I just watched a kid die and I had nothing left." I looked at him and said, "Just take it. Take whatever you want. I don't care." That broke something in him. He set my laptop down carefully on the counter and just collapsed against my fridge, sobbing. Through the tears, he told me his sister Freya was type 1 diabetic and needed $2,400 for her insulin and supplies. His job at the distribution center had cut everyone's hours to 15 per week to avoid paying benefits. They were 3 months behind on rent. His parents were dead. Freya was 17 and she was his responsibility. He pulled out his phone with shaking hands and showed me her medical bills, her prescription costs, photos of her insulin pump. Everything was real. This wasn't a con. This was desperation. I walked to my bedroom, grabbed $300 cash from my emergency fund, came back and put it in his hand. "Leave. Don't ever come back here. If I see you again, I'm calling the police." He stared at the money like he couldn't process what was happening. "I can't. Why would you?" "Because I just watched someone's sister die tonight and I can't watch another one." I opened my door. "Go." He left. I locked every lock, pushed my couch against the door, and didn't sleep for 3 days. The following Monday, there was an envelope in my mailbox. Inside was $300 in 20s with a note on notebook paper. "Got extra overnight shift. Paying you back. Freya's stable. I'm sorry for everything. Dante." I should have thrown it away. Instead, I kept it. Every single week for 2 months, another envelope appeared. $40 one week, $60 the next, sometimes just $20. Each one had a note. Freya's A1C dropped to 7.2. Got promoted to shift lead. She made honor roll. Thank you for saving her life. I started looking forward to Mondays. Started checking my mailbox twice a day. I told myself it was just to make sure he was actually paying me back, but that was a lie. Then last Tuesday, nothing. Wednesday, nothing. By Thursday, I was panicking. I convinced myself something happened to Freya, that she'd ended up in my ER, that I'd failed another person. Friday morning, I did something crazy. I tracked down his address from the return labels on all those envelopes and drove across the city to a rundown apartment complex. I stood outside Unit 2C for 10 minutes trying to decide if I was insane. Before I could knock, the door opened. Dante was standing there in his warehouse uniform holding 2 bags of groceries, staring at me in complete shock. The envelope stopped and I thought I couldn't finish. Behind him, a teenage girl appeared. "Dante, oh my god, is this her?" "The nurse?" "Freya." Healthy, smiling, very much alive. Dante set down the groceries. "I was going to come by this weekend to give you this." He pulled a 20 from his wallet. "Last payment. But I was going to ask if maybe you wanted to get coffee to say thank you properly." I should have said no. This was insane. He broke into my apartment, but all I could think about was those envelopes, those updates about his sister. The fact that for 2 months, this stranger kept his promise when everyone else in my life breaks theirs. "Coffee sounds good," I said. That was last Sunday. Tonight we had dinner at a real restaurant. We talked for 3 hours. He told me about growing up in foster care with Freya, about how terrified he was that night in my kitchen, about the warehouse giving him full-time hours. I told him about my patient, about why I gave him that money, about checking my mailbox every day waiting for his notes. When he walked me to my car, he said, "I know this is weird. I know I'm probably the last person you should trust. You broke into my apartment and paid me back $300 in 20s. You're either the most trustworthy person I know or I'm an idiot." He laughed. Then he got serious. "Freya wants to meet you. Properly. She's been asking for weeks. I don't know what this is. I can't explain it to my friends or my family. But sometimes the worst night of your life introduces you to someone who understands what it means to be desperate and human and trying. We're getting coffee again next week. Freya's coming too."